I want one of those Hollywood things where they click. So we are live. Hello, this is Bob Kane with the ACAP chapter, Winston-Salem ACAP, and I'm one of the co-coordinators along with Melissa Hunt. So we are delighted to have you with us via YouTube or Restream. So bear with me, folks. This is my first. I've actually been trained. You may question that later, but this is my first run through on the new platform that we've moved from Zoom to Restream. So kind of getting used to different buttons and whistles. So let's start. Welcome to ACAP. We're delighted that you've joined us. ACAP stands for Adult Children of Aging Parents. It's a collaboration of local chapters across a growing geographic footprint. ACAP began in North Carolina out of the Hickory area, which is now known as the Foothills chapter, by the way. They've done a rebranding in that sense to better reflect the area they serve. But we have 4 local chapters in North Carolina and 1 in Pennsylvania, and we're looking to grow nationally. We've had interest from cities across the nation and metropolitan areas, so we're excited as that progresses. ACAP offers educational programs each month, and although specifically designed for adult children of aging parents, as our name implies, programs are open to everyone. So we are seeing a demographic in some of our numbers that 20-somethings are joining these broadcasts. And let me say, we are delighted to have you. We know that some of those folks are professional caregivers, PCAs, CNAs, nurse aides, that kind of interchangeable language for a lot of folks in healthcare. But we also know that there's a trend among grandchildren caring for grandparents. So we're delighted to have all. Typically, ACAP programs are in person, but we've been affected by, like everybody, by COVID. So we're offering these educational programs online. If you're reviewing this now and are not currently, if you didn't come to awareness about us and these broadcasts through our database, you'd like to receive monthly reminders, send us an email for this chapter. Our email is acap, A-C-A-P, Winston.Salem @gmail.com, and we will be delighted to put you on the listserv so you get invitations for future presentations, virtual and live. We're very much looking forward to getting together live again in the future, as all the ACAP chapters are, but only when it is absolutely safe. We take a very conservative view towards sharing your safety and the safety of your loved ones. If you've missed a talk or want to see other talks again, or share with a friend or neighbor or family member, hey, I saw this great ACAP talk, go to our website. The national website is acapcommunity.org, O-R-G, and there are links to podcasts and previous talks like this on video, and just a number of resources, and you can even tool around some of the tabs and find out if there's a local chapter in your area or how to start one. If the latter is your case and you want to start one, send us an email through that same website, and someone will be in touch. Let's see. Very important. Regarding giving us your emails, we don't sell your email to anybody. We don't sell the list. We respect your privacy. So if you give us your email, only we have it. So we're going to be very respectful of that. I know that's a concern for a lot of folks as the information age grows and you start getting spammed. We're not going to participate in that. So. Good information is global, we believe, but caring is local, and that's why we have the local chapters. And so we try to maintain. We're going to maintain the video broadcast like this, but we really want folks, again, when it's safe, to show up live and join us. Let's see my next set of notes. Forgive me for the hesitation. Oh, goody. So we are delighted to have, we get vetted speakers who have great expertise in their areas of specialty. And tonight we're delighted because we have not only one fabulous geriatric care manager, but 2 from what we call the Triad area. If you're looking from outside of the North Carolina area, the Guilford and Forsyth counties, Greensboro, Winston, High Point. So geriatric care managers and I won't steal their thunder. I'll let them tell you what they do for a living. But so these ladies also happen to, they're great presenters for us tonight for the Winston chapter, but they happen to be involved with the next county over, Guilford County ACAP leadership team. So they're very involved in ACAP. Both have a strong belief in educating, empowering, and advocating for the elderly. Both, turns out, are UNCG Greensboro alums. Go Spartans. Did I get that right? All right. And so we have Brenda has her bachelor's in social work. Jennifer has her master's in gerontology. Brenda Planas, and Brenda, if you'll wave, and we see the banner in the back. Her company, she's the owner of Elder and Wiser with the owl. Love the logo. She recently is celebrating the company's third year anniversary. So, hey, Brenda, doing a lot of good in the community. She worked with older adults previously in hospital settings, did medical equipment sales, did home health care, hospice, and worked in skilled nursing facilities as a social worker. She resides in Kernersville, North Carolina, between Winston and Greensboro, with her husband and 2 children and 2 very important fur babies, Charlie and Jake. Brenda is happy to share stories and pictures and videos with you. You get in touch with her after the talk. Jennifer Harris is the owner of Age Advocate, and she's launched this service recently. She's done great work in our community for a number of years with the elder population, but this is a new venture for her, so we're excited for Jennifer. So she is a former ombudsman, general all-around problem-solving professional, I guess the best description of an ombudsman, and very focused on resident rights. And she's also a volunteer SHIP counselor. If you've not been familiar with the SHIP program, Senior Health Insurance Information Program, one of your best sources across the nation for free through our federal tax dollars to explore healthcare insurances, understanding Medicare, long-term care, Medicaid, how all these things work. How does Obamacare work for a senior? They can answer all of those things. So get in touch with a local SHIP counselor. She's also fortunate, Jennifer is also fortunate to be a mother, sister, and long-distance caregiving daughter, that's ACAP, and local daughter-in-law. So if you are viewing the presentation on YouTube, great. You can participate in the live chat. We encourage you to do that. As the facilitator monitor tonight, I'll be looking at those chats. And I've asked both of our presenters, they are fine to take questions as we go. So I'll throw up a hand every now and then and go, hey, we got a question from one of our viewers from the chat, and we'll just take questions instead of holding them till the end. But so feel free to ask a question at any point. But please hop on, let us know where you're from. We'd love to know that. From the event page, if you got to us somehow, otherwise, if you go to the event page, acapcommunity.org, and click on the Join the Chat on YouTube line, that will get you to us. I think that's it. Excuse me, very important. We believe, we appreciate good sponsorship. That's what makes these things happen. It takes money to run things like this. And so the Winston-Salem chapter has been just very much supported by one of our core sponsors, the Norma Charles Sink Fund. And we are very, very appreciative of their support to make sure that this wonderful information is coming to you for free. So without further ado, I will introduce Jennifer Harris. Wave, Jennifer. And Brenda Planas. Ladies, take it over. I'll give you a 5-minute wave toward the end of the hour just to let you know that we're wrapping down. But yeah, start those questions coming. Go ahead, Jennifer.
All right, Bob. I'm going to attempt to share my screen. So you'll give me just a second and we'll see what happens. How about that?
Hold on just a moment. I think that requires a host function. Let me add that.
Okay.
Everybody see the screen? No, Brenda? Uh-oh. Okay. Technical difficulties. Hang on.
Okay.
How about that? Yay. All right.
Okay, we're sharing?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Well, everybody, thank you for joining us tonight. And if you haven't already, get something to sip, because all good information, I think, goes down a little bit better while we're sipping and learning. And as Bob said, if there's anything that Brenda and I are sharing that you want more information on or comment or question, if you'll just shoot it in the chat and they will let us know. Tonight, we're going to run through how to gather information. What are those records that you want to have in your hands before the event, and rather than waiting until it's go time and crisis mode? Looking for signs of depression, neglect, and abuse. Then what are some things we'll do about that, which is really hard when you're at a distance. And then how to make the home visits really productive in your communications with your loved one, even if it's long distance, productive as well. Brenda's going to run through some technology resources to help stay home safe as long as possible, and keeping folks engaged while they're in their home environment, whatever that may be. And then evaluating when it's time for change. What does that look like? As geriatric care managers, those are things that we're often a part of assessing if those environments are still appropriate. So I'm going to dive in with some of the important documents. And I have electronic and print copies because it's so important not to just rely on your loved one saying it's in the bottom desk drawer on the right, because that doesn't help if you're not there. But where you want to be able to talk to a physician, a surgeon, an insurance provider, you're going to need to prove who you are and why they should talk to you. So to be able to have electronic copies of the healthcare powers of attorney, and you can check and see if your loved one's not sure if they've done it in the county that they live in. If it was created with an attorney, it's most probably recorded, the healthcare piece anyway, with the record of deeds. So you should be able to do some searching on your own if you're tech savvy and look at the county record of deeds where your loved one created the document. The advance directives, in addition, what are their wishes? And I have a couple acronyms in there. DNR for a do not resuscitate order. In our state, in North Carolina, it is a goldenrod yellow piece of paper signed only by the physician and generated only by them. And the most, I might get this wrong, a medically ordered scope of treatment. So that can kind of override the DNR for short term and say, that's my wish, but maybe if I just had COVID, I would want to get an IV antibiotic. I might want to get IV fluids or artificial respiration on a short term if it's just something acute. If your loved one has long-term care insurance, not only do you need a copy of it, but it's really good to know who's the agent in charge of it, who sold them this policy, or if it's been transferred. A number of these companies have merged together over time. I know my parents, they've had one for 21 years. It's on its third name and third ownership group. So keeping up with that is important, because when you need it, you'll want to know what is the elimination period, meaning how many days before it can kick in and start help paying for all this home care or nursing care or long-term stay. How many days do we need? So that's great to know up front. And then what are the coverage terms? Is it going to be a number of days? Is it a number of dollars? And does it convert? What if it's never used and your loved one tragically passes away very suddenly? Does any of that become life insurance? Can it be drawn out any earlier? So knowing how to reach that agent and hold those conversations is really key. Are there any cosigner documents? You know, in my folks live in Buffalo, New York. I can't just get up there on my lunch break to find out if I, in fact, can help my mom with her banking, because there has to be these documents in place. I need copies of those. So who's the financial planner? If there's somebody doing estate planning and such that they might need to tap into, that as an adult child or loved one we want those documents. And then also, are there any final wishes and instructions? And that is really important that we need to know, because some of it's time sensitive. So if you, for instance, if someone wants an autopsy at their end of life versus not, you have to know that. If they want to be an organ donor, those conversations maybe need to be had before the time. But I particularly want to encourage you, because this 2 years of just upheaval we've lived in with a global pandemic, are those businesses still existing in the last 2 years of change that we've seen? And for instance, I had a client recently who kept saying, I want to give my body to science. I want to give my body to science. Come to find out, the diagnosis that they've had in the last few years, science said, no, thank you. So, what are those plans? Let's know them in advance, and let's get things in writing based on what our loved one wants, because it may not be practical anymore. And then, is there any information such as, is there a family plot in another state? Probably. Do the wishes involve things that we would need to know in those moments where you're upset? The grieving process has just slapped you in the head. So having that stuff and not trying to get to a bank, to get to a safety deposit box with the coffee can of keys and figure out how to get in the safety deposit box to start looking for these documents. And then if there is a life insurance policy, who do we talk to about that when that time comes? I encourage, and Brenda and I share this kind of emergency folder. I think that our clients should have. I have a picture that's Daddy Bob right there. The cover sheet in that folder, and a good place is often on top of the fridge. Everybody's got a fridge. Have the legal name that is on the insurance cards and the documentation within the folder. But what is the goes by name? I have met a woman named Bunny. She was the youngest of, I believe, 7 children, and she was just, everybody called her Bunny. Wasn't her given name, didn't match what Medicare, Medicaid services, insurance companies knew her as, but it's important to have both of those so that in an emergency situation, looking at that folder, you would know to use a name that she might answer you with. A recent photo can be very helpful. And then the demographics, date of birth, local address, phone number, and just the first emergency contact, preferably someone right there local. Doesn't mean power of attorney if you're in another state, out of town, but just someone who can be reached immediately if needed. In that go folder for my clients, I always like to make a flash drive to go with it. So if you live out of town, you've got this flash drive. And if you're traveling, rather than carrying a whole bundle of papers, you can just take it on that little stick and have it with you. But it does need to be updated for some of these items. The emergency call list in order and with who they are, because we can't assume anyone's family, because our families of choice are often made up of a term I use more than probably son or daughter so much as loved one. Who are your loved ones? They're the family you get to choose and who might be with you in your end of days. So who are they? What's the relationship? How do we reach them? Are there any medications, any allergies? And that needs to change after medical appointments when maybe physicians have altered anything. So keeping up with that is important. Who's the primary care physician? And then how do we reach them? Which practice? If we say, they're with Novant, well, that gives us a pretty broad stroke of places to look. So if we could get the practice location and even a phone number right there, we might need to circle back, because very often discharge papers will say, follow up with your primary care physician in 2 weeks. Okay, who is that? Who are we contacting? What is the name of the pharmacy? Not just Walgreens. which Walgreens? And in my neighborhood, there's a Walgreens on Spring Garden, but there's a Walgreens at Spring Garden and Market. There's also a Walgreens at Spring Garden and Josephine Boyd. So the exact location and phone number is important for an emergency room physician to be sending prescriptions in. The insurance card front and the back, please. So we've got those customer service numbers that anyone screening or scanning in your loved one's information, that Medicare card, and if there's a supplement, Advantage plan, any Part D prescription cards, we could get one page, line them all up face down on the copier, then flip them all. Very helpful. Copy of a driver's license, or if it's been a while, or any photo ID or recent photo, again, can be really in making sure that we've got the right demographics and everything. And then again, those copies of healthcare directives and the power of attorney if you want people to be able to communicate with you and that's your designated position. If your loved one's vulnerable in dealing with some cognitive issues, maybe make sure some of these items are safe or that there's duplicates. Maybe make a photocopy of the deed to the house or the title to the car. Password lists. If your loved ones are tech savvy and they're using things that have passwords, it's very helpful to be able to log into the IRA or any financial, healthcare. Having that conversation with your loved one. Hey, if you change it, can you jot that down and tell me on our next call? So that you get that shared information. And even within your household, many of us have our own laptops. So sharing, with the loved ones that you're right here with, what their ways of getting into the phone is even very difficult. So if you're in case of emergency information's in your phone and your phone's locked, it might be hard for first responders to be able to reach out to folks for you. If there's extra boxes of checks, maybe secure or remove any of those if they're on and on and on. Again, with permission, don't take stuff out of your loved one's home without sharing it with them if they have the cognition to be paying bills and such. But sometimes if you're trying to do the banking online from a distance, and your loved ones dipping into this checkbook and then that checkbook, but just one at a time. So then you'll be able to notice if things aren't sequential, and it makes that bookkeeping at a distance a whole lot easier, as well as reducing the vulnerability of stuff getting into the wrong person's hands. That Social Security card is really important. It shouldn't be in anybody's wallet and carried around. If they feel like they've always had it, maybe let's make another copy on a blue piece of paper, cut it out, stick it in the wallet, but keep that original safe, along with birth certificates. Those are particularly needed, at end of life sometimes. So when you're having to prove who, what, when, where, having those originals, you can reach out to the county, if you know it, where your loved one was born and make those requests for replacement documents for a small fee. If they have been lost or destroyed, any documentation of marriage and divorce. Those again are required when you're looking at using life insurance and getting things like certificate of death. We also have to prove some of that. If your loved one was so gracious to have served in the armed forces, that DD 214, if you're going to apply for aid and attendance and income, which is an income stream available with qualifications, for surviving spouses as well as the veterans themselves. Any of that discharge paperwork needs to be held safely somewhere, whether it's a safe in the home, the security deposit at the bank, or if you take it with you at your next visit. And again, leave copies so your loved one has something still to remember that service. Again, vehicle titles, really important, because if you're trying to transfer title after loss of perhaps one loved one when there were two, you'll need a lot of this documentation to prove things of that nature. Deed to the house or any properties, hopefully are in a safe or, again, safety deposit box. I have been a part of that hunt many times to say it's at the Wells Fargo, or it's at First Union, which isn't anymore, right? So banks that don't exist, but maybe your loved one still calls it that. And then that branch they think it's at, that branch is closed and there's a larger, newer branch. How do we get to those documents? Let's know before we need them. Financial accounting statements, bank statements can be paper mailed to your loved one still, but with their permission, and you can work with the bank to maybe get electronic copies so you can look for any indiscrepancies or anything that looks fraudulent or not an appropriate charge for your loved one to be making. You can, again, rerouting mail. My mother and I recently had this conversation about rerouting mail, and she doesn't want her mail going anywhere else. But the thing that she really wants is the coupons. She wants the coupons, not the explanation of benefits from healthcare providers, not anything with a window really that's a bill. So maybe sussing out what's important to your loved one that they still want, and would they trust you, or have they given you permission to be the person who handles those other documents? Because thankfully, when you put in a change of address through the U.S. postal system, they don't forward some of the coupons and stuff that's bulk mail. They'll still get that. So it can be a win-win. Okay, I buried this one kind of in the middle of my part because it's hard to talk about, and it's even harder when we're long distance. And right now, we are all dealing with isolation from 2 years of this pandemic. So how can I tell if my loved one is dealing with maybe some depression tied to the isolation? So I've got kind of two columns going here. Watching out for if you're able to visit face to face, but also listening for if your conversations are more over the phone, or maybe you chat using any type of virtual platform. You can get a little eyes on and a little look around, but watching out for an irritability, restlessness. If they just can't even stay still, they just seem bothered, or hand wringing, and something that there's something off. What is that? We want to be aware of that type of behavior if it's not the normal. Losing interest in things that they found pleasurable. If you always watch football on Sunday, if that's what dad did, and then it went to baseball season, it went to basketball season, and whatever season it was, and now he just doesn't care and he's lost interest. Why? If that has been a 60-year part of life, why the change? So watching out for things that once brought joy, or is there a reason behind it? It could be an indicator that perhaps someone or something is not appropriate in their life. Any decrease in energy or fatigue, and this is a time where we don't have to get up and get dressed for work if your work is virtual. And if you're listening to church on the radio or on TV, instead of that being the one day a week that I had my hair done, I dressed, and I felt good about myself, and I saw people and I was seen. And now I just can't even be bothered. It's just not the same. If we see that kind of a malaise, sleeping a lot, not getting out of the pajamas, not taking care of the hygiene as they used to, changes in gait, the way they're walking, the speed, body posturing. Is your head up? Are their shoulders up? Do you see or hear changes in speech? Is it taking longer to get those words out? Whether it's on the phone or face to face, seeing that concentration and decision making difficulty is a real challenge either way to say what's aging, what's a natural, healthy aging, what is perhaps disease aging with a cognitive change, what is low hearing, maybe low vision. Before you get started with the conversation, hey, can you put your hearing aids in? Or let's turn a light on in here so we can see each other better. Those types of things, if they're not happening, maybe that's a key. There's something going on. Particularly with our loved ones that are dealing with diabetes or any metabolic issues, if they're eating a lot more than they used to or should be, or the opposite, unexplained weight loss. You notice the clothes are hanging, you see more shoulder, more definitions and scapula and stuff. What's happening there? Are you eating well balanced meals appropriate for your age and stage of life? Or are you comfort eating or drinking to get through this pandemic or this isolation, whatever it is they're dealing with? And are they having difficulty sleeping? I think so many of us have gotten off of a schedule of keeping up with when I wake up, when I go to bed. It's dark early, it stays dark longer. We're thankfully starting to trend the opposite way with longer days and more sunshine. But are there canceled appointments because of oversleeping through them? Are you getting phone calls at 12, 1, 2, 3 in the morning when usually that loved one would be asleep? Watching out for those on the phone as well as in person, listening for hopelessness, worthlessness. Well, I might as well just give up. I've seen my best days, just let me go. And if you're starting to hear that, is it how your loved one always talked? Or is this new and it's a change? If you're noticing that kind of flat effect of just a emptiness in your loved one, it's worth a conversation, maybe making that appointment. And most certainly, if there's fatalistic conversation about, I'm a burden, I don't want to be here anymore, I don't want to do this to you kids, we want to take those conversations serious. Follow up an hour later, a day later, call a neighbor, reach out to the primary care physician, someone in a faith-based organization, whatever their thing is, their local network, and always the option for a wellness check with a first responder is a choice. If they're complaining about new issues that you haven't heard before that aren't remedied with this headache and it just won't go away and it's terrible, and have you taken a couple aspirin? Have you talked to the doctor? Yeah, it's bad. I gotta go. I can't talk to you anymore. Let's not end the conversation repeatedly too many times and dig deeper into what's going on there. And then the real weepy crying is just can be such a cry for help, even though you can't identify when you're in that moment that I'm depressed, or maybe I'm being abused by someone who's in the room, but I can't withhold that. This is so important. If nothing else, please read the statement across the top. It is, and this comes from North Carolina General Statute, and I have it quoted right there. It is the law that any person who has reasonable cause to believe that a disabled, and we pair elderly along with that, is in need of protective services, that you must report the case to county social services. So how do you make that report? Real simple. Forsyth County, where the area we're talking about right now, or if you want to reach out to me separately, I'm glad to help you find your local resources. But there's an after hours number as well as during business hours, and it's always confidential. So whether you're the caregiver, you're the spouse, the adult child, if you see it, hear it, smell it, and it's wrong and it doesn't sit well with you, please say something. If your loved one's in long-term care, the ombudsman or the advocates who are a great first step. They're unbiased, neutral third party. They do have to have consent from the person there to be able to make a complaint, but that's a great place to start. It is at no cost to you to have them go to the facility, or at least engage on the phone or virtually with your loved one and find out what's going on. The Department of Social Services has a division called the Adult Home Care Specialists. They work with assisted living, family care homes, and memory units. That's the number for Forsyth County. If your loved one is in skilled nursing in the state of North Carolina, the toll-free number is listed there. Or if you're out of state, there is the 919 exchange that is to the DHSR office in Raleigh. Again, unbiased, they're there for you. And better to be wrong early and get an explanation for what's going on than miss a signal, right? And I would be remiss if I didn't just share this. And if your loved one is offended at the thought of it, or why are you saying this? Sometimes just leaving it written down somewhere can make the difference. Access. So this is off of a website that is one of the Forsyth County Emergency Management, having a lockbox on the door. Real simple. It allows first responders access. You can call your non-emergency number for any local fire or police department and give them the code to that box. And if a call goes out, they will get information that you put in. So you can't leave HIPAA information, right? So you can't say things like, my dad has frontal temporal lobe dementia, but you can say adult male with, hearing deficit, low vision, anything that lets those first responders know something, including the code to the door. They will get access. They will go in if they have reason to believe that there's an emergency, really. So it minimizes property damage. If you're out of town, I'm not recommending this particular group, but it's from a Forsyth County emergency website. But when you're out of town, some of these that are electronic, it can let you know the date and time of when that box was opened and closed again. So as far as managing from out of town, that can be really helpful. Also, if you have caregivers coming and going out of your loved one's home, that lets you know what time they got there and what time they left and locked the door by virtue of that box being opened and closed. When you're near and far from long distance, you might want to ask a geriatric care manager to be your eyes and ears, someone to go in the home, go to medical appointments, do some assessments, watch for change, use all of our senses to smell and see and hear and what's going on. So of course, we're a huge asset. Asking permission of your loved one to use their healthcare portal. Many of our older adults don't use it, but from a distance with permission, you could. If you are allowed, you can see when the appointments are, so you can help with reminder calls. You can look at visit summaries and test results and things of that nature. And in the event that your loved one's not a really good historian, or in those really fast, maybe 7 minutes in front of the doc, did I ask all my questions? Did I write everything down? That's a way you can get some of that information from afar. Also, at a distance, using delivery services for pharmacy updates, meals, use a vetted company. These are all folks that are here in the triad of North Carolina. One I'll speak to personally is GoGo Grandparent. Again, I'm not paid by these folks, but personal experience for someone who has reoccurring appointments, such as a dialysis or chemotherapy or blood transfusions. If you go very early in the morning, and you're going to be there a long number of hours here's an example. My sister in DC has the credit card that she schedules every time my father would go to chemo or get a transfusion. So she's in DC, he's in Buffalo, New York. So when she sets up the ride, she then gets a text that said, this is the driver's name, what he's driving, blah, blah, blah. So GoGo Grandparents, a third-party agency. There may be more. This is just the only one I know of that services our area. Third-party group that lets you know they've been picked up, they're in the car moving, they've been dropped off. All your loved one has to do then is give the phone number to the receptionist. They can then make the call. So if somebody doesn't use a smartphone, which it doesn't have buttons, this is not a phone. My phone has buttons. Don't give me something that I have to touch and slide, and it doesn't look like a phone. My phone's at home in the kitchen on the wall, right? So if your loved one's not going to use that new technology, then this is an alternative that you can use to schedule rides, pick up, drop off, any of these delivery things, and they can tell you who's coming, that they've come, they've picked up, they've left. The vetting of those groups is done through the organizations who hire the people. This third-party group charges per minute that your loved one's with the driver service. So just putting it out there, it was a great help for us in that my dad would go at 6 a.m. for treatments, and my mom didn't have to take the one family car and sit there for 4 to 6 hours waiting on him. She could grocery shop. She could do other stuff on her schedule. The things that capture the front door. It's amazing to me where family members will say, wow, my aunt opened and closed the front door 17 times in an hour last night. What are they looking for? No one was there. So that Ring doorbell can be really helpful in that it picks up the motion. It allows two-way conversation. You can get an alert on your computer, on your cell phone at a distance. Things like a Nest camera can help you to have two-way conversation. Maybe it's on top of the refrigerator, pointing down at where the medications are to say, hey, Mom, come in the kitchen. Do you hear me? Call her on the phone, get her to walk in there. She doesn't have to hold this little camera that's mounted on top of the fridge, but you can walk her through those steps if it's safe to do so. And things like med dispensers that only allow certain amounts of time for them to be open. And then if you have cleaners, repair people, caregivers, creating a manual that tells them how to reach you if there's an issue or who to call locally. When you're out of town, ask before you're coming into town, hey, loved one, what types of things are we going to be doing? Because your agenda and their agenda may be worlds apart. So it's great to have those expectations up front. Maybe bring an extra suitcase if it's time to start taking stuff home, if you're being given the family heirlooms on the way out the door. Don't assume your loved one has cords for your technology. Bring what you're going to need when you're making that visit. I use my cell phone when I'm with my clients and my loved ones because the remote, the new phone, the thermostat, taking pictures of those things that often get broken or it's not working right, or whatever it is, if you can take a picture of it, and then that can help you walk them perhaps through it, because it happens a lot. Any kind of notebook, 3x5 cards, a Sharpie to tape on the remote, the steps to turn on the TV, and then the cable, and then here's your 3 favorite channels. Maybe put that right on the remote. Toolbox and tape measure, just because you might be changing things as that environmental need has to match the home. And if you are at an stage of life as I am, and your loved one likes their home as though it is a tropical island, and I'm having my own personal summer, that small fan to have with you bedside is incredibly valuable. Forsyth County, signing up for weather alerts for here. If you live in Florida, but you're seeing on the news, North Carolina is getting blasted with, torrential thunder, snow, or whatever we have, stick around. It'll change in 15 minutes here. We literally have had some 3 to 4 season days recently, and I feel like there's probably more coming. So this Ready Forsyth has a way that you can sign up and get an alert here. And it's really helpful to be able to know, like, are the roads passable? Is there a lot of power outages? You can go on Duke Power's website and sign up for alerts with your loved one's address to see if their power's out. Forsyth County Fire Department also has this Code Red program, and I've got in the bottom left corner. It does an emergency dialing out when there's conditions. And we recently did have a fire related that became an environmental issue where people had to be aware. I think I'm at the end of my time and just wanted to say thank you for allowing me to run through all this stuff. And if I can provide any further information, my contact info, it's all there.
Jennifer, I am going to buy you a drink to sip as a result. You have been working hard. I love all these tips. And a couple of the commenters said, yeah, really great points. Hard to think about, but yeah, I love the organization of all of it. So thank you. Thank you.
I'm going to sip now.
And I'm very appreciative that of course, as ACAP is local, we said caring is local, that you made it local. I've seen so many, we've all seen presentations that are great, but it's like, oh, well, that's the national weather server. Okay. So thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Apologies. I'll apologize again at the end. So this is the first time I've hosted a restream. We've done Zooms before, and I know all the buttons there. I have tried gently to push buttons without ending the broadcast, and several people have said, hey, we can hear Jennifer, we could hear you, we could see your PowerPoint, so we got the content, very important, but they could not see us. So if somebody will tell me in the audience, can you see all of us now, Jennifer and Brenda and myself? And this is a good time for questions for Jennifer, and then we'll move to Brenda. So I'm looking at the chat box. Get those fingers typing.
I can see you, Bob. Okay. And I can see Brenda.
Yes, I see both of you guys.
Cool. And well, as presenters and hosts, we may be able to see each other, but yeah, Minda says yes. Thank you. So I want to make sure if the guest who signed in through the website, perfect. Thank you, Minda. Minda's a phenomenal local resource and on the ACAP leadership team. So thank you very much, Minda. Sorry. So I'm going to give just a moment more if anybody's got questions through the chat for Jennifer. And if something comes up later, that's fine. We can circle up at the end. So, okay. Jennifer, I will ask, I know just about every PowerPoint somebody does. And so this is broadcast and this will be on the web for eternity, right? For anybody to view. Some folks say, this is my work, proprietary information, and I forget, we may have already asked earlier and I missed the email. Is this the PowerPoint available or not?
If there's any specifics, I've got the same information really on the municipalities that I cover. So okay. Jennifer at Age Advocate, and I'm glad to share, anything that I know, and Brenda and I love to present together. I think we have the same philosophy. If we know it, it does no good if we don't put it out there for anybody else. So certainly between Winston, Kernersville, High Point, Jamestown, Greensboro, if we can help with these resources for any of that, please reach out to us. And you know, if my my slides are helpful to anybody, I'm glad to share. Just reach out, you know, shoot me your email please send your email in the text and I'll get it to you.
Perfect. So wonderful. Thank you very much. Yeah, Michaela, thank you. Yes, we can see you all. Thank you so much for that. Okay, Brenda, you're up.
Well, thank you, Bob. Thank you, Jennifer. And I first have to apologize. My dog ate the slides for the presentation. So, and he's sleeping over here like he did nothing wrong. So I'm so sorry. You guys, unfortunately, I have no slides, so you'll just have to look at my face while I talk a little bit about this. So my part in this, talking about, keeping your loved one safe, engaging them from a distance, as Jennifer said, we are definitely the eyes and ears for family members. I have clients that live here locally while their kids may live anywhere from Asheville to California. So I'm going to talk a little bit about technology and other resources that can enhance your aging loved one's safety as well as engagement in their home. And again, I apologize for no slides, so you'll just have to look and listen to me this time. A lot of what we're talking about has to do with aging in place. So I don't know if you've heard of that, but aging in place has to do with any really adults that are over 65. They want to live in their home for as long as possible. Aging in place. So that's a big thing. People don't want to be placed. They want to stay at home. And one way for them to be able to stay at home as long as possible is to have and use technology, which we all know. I say I'm personally computer special. So sometimes our aging loved ones are computer special as well. But we want to try to avoid isolation, loneliness, falls. We want to help with medication management and transportation needs. The older aging loved ones who face these challenges, they may not be able to live at home. They may actually need the technology assistance may not be enough. They may actually need to be placed somewhere, but we want to keep them at home as long as we possibly can. So then comes the new phrase, assistive technology. So assistive technology can extend somebody's ability to live independently at home as maybe longer than they normally would be able to. The problem is that with adoption of technology, it's been slow and poor in design for the elderly community. So we all know that. So assistive technology can actually be any item, piece of equipment, or product used to maintain and increase their functions at home. And so we're going to talk about things, just some different options. There are a wide variety of these things. And Jennifer actually touched on a few of these things whenever she was giving her part of the presentation. So how can smart technology help you age in place? Well, what's the first thing that we think of whenever we think of smart technology? Simple smartphones. So there are multitudes of cell phones that are out there these days that sometimes can be challenging for us to use, much less our aging loved ones. But, you can do things such as if you get a smartphone, you can get one designed for a senior. You can enlarge the icon so that they're simple to read. And you can do simple things as maybe only apps for email, news, weather, maybe other apps that track blood pressure. Blood sugar is huge for people that are diabetics. Medication reminders. How many of you use the setting for timers or alarms on your phone for yourself, or even reminders for yourself on your smartphones? And the latest thing is that some hearing aids are actually Bluetooth compatible with your smartphone. So I have a client that does that, and he loves it, and he's so proud of that. He can actually use his hearing aids through a smartphone, and he can adjust it with that. The other thing that you can do as far as technology are actually we call wearables. I was even surprised when I started looking into this myself, some of the things that are actually out there. I love this. So there's something called the Body Guardian Sensor. It is actually a peel and stick wireless monitor that performs cardiac ECGs and rhythm monitoring. you can actually download the data, and then you can get those things if you have heart issues. I think this one was my favorite one. It's called Tango. Tango is actually a smart belt that uses fall in progress technology to automatically deploy an airbag around the hips to cushion impacts. So I thought that was pretty interesting. Another thing are smartwatches. Oh, I just realized mine is not on. So I use a Fitbit for things as far as different technology. But, Apple phones, if your loved one can manage that. I have clients who do have either Fitbits or they have Apple Watches. They have things on there like medication reminders, fall detection, fitness trackers. Some of them they monitor your heart rate, monitor your blood pressure, things like that, even your oxygen levels. So those are pretty neat, and those are, pretty relatively inexpensive to buy. Another interesting one that I found is called a GPS Smart Sole. This is actually a shoe insole that can keep you connected to a family member with signs of dementia, or anyone actually, so that they can be found if they wander off. It actually uses GPS technology to pinpoint a person's location with great accuracy. And the nice thing about this is you could put it in their shoe and in the insole, and they would never even know that it was there. So I thought that was pretty interesting. Another huge thing whenever people are at home is one of the biggest factors that causes people to go to the hospital is they take their medications incorrectly, and of course falls. So I think it's really important if people have medication reminders. There's a multitude of them, of course, on Amazon, where it's actually a beep or it's digital, or you program your smartphone with that. So it can remind you of when you need to take your medicines. It opens a certain box at a certain time so that you know to take that. Really important. One of my other favorite things, of course, is PERS. And PERS is actually just a general grouping of, it's called Personal Emergency Response System. And most people know it as Lifeline. I've fallen and I can't get up. There are so many varieties of Lifeline out there, but I think for any older person, especially someone that is living at home or is ever left at home by themselves, it is such a blessing. And I think it's a kind of a security blanket in that aspect, because some of the ones now, they have GPS. So it will still work if you leave the home to go to an appointment, or if your loved one were to wander out of the house, you can still locate them if they have it on. Another thing is some of them actually have a motion detector on it. So if they were to fall, regardless of whether they push the button for assistance or not, then it will notify the company, the monitoring system, if there was actually a fall, so that they can they can inform whether they call 911 or a family member with that. And one thing I do want to add about the PERS system is that if you qualify, some health insurance companies will actually cover the monthly monitoring fee for a Lifeline-like service. So if you have enough falls, unfortunately, then you might qualify for a free Lifeline system through your health insurance. And you can always contact the customer service number on the back of your parents' or loved ones' insurance card and ask and say, hey, do you guys cover, a Lifeline system or a PERS system for, any of your customers? Because I've been able to get a few things for clients recently. Also, I think Jennifer touched on this. This is not really technology, but it's something that you can do if you don't live near your family. And I had families do this. Son lived in Florida, family member lived in Greensboro facility, and he would order Instacart or DoorDash. His dad loved like Bojangles chicken biscuits and those Cajun fries. And so he would actually order those and have them delivered to his dad here. And his dad just truly loved it. But that's something that you can actually do far away. Not really technology related, though. Meals, whether you order HelloFresh, meals that are already made, and all they have to do is put them in the oven, not the meals that you still have to cook. I prefer the easy way myself, too. Or any other type of food delivery services that we talked about. There's also programs called Mom's Meals. And again, if you qualify, your health insurance might cover a limited number of mobile meals per se. I know that for people who have been recently in the hospital or short-term rehab and then go home, if it's within so many weeks, then they will give you, say, like 10 free meals. And they are just meals that are already prepared. All you have to do is stick them in the microwave or the oven and heat them up. So that's always nice. A lot of people don't actually know they have that benefit. So you can always call the customer service number with your health insurance and figure out if you actually would qualify for those meals for free. There's a lot of things that you can actually do to your home. I know my mother-in-law has a fancy deadbolt lock on the outside that no longer has a key, so she doesn't have to fumble with her keys whenever she goes in, but it's a code on it. So it's a keypad code that she punches in whenever she goes home, and it automatically unlocks the door for her easy access. So that's really nice. They also have big button telephones, big button TV remotes. And I know I refer to Amazon a lot, but that is just the easiest way to get things for people. I use Amazon all the time, and I Google, big button TV remote for somebody. I can tell you how many of those we've ordered for clients because they cannot see, nor can they actually manage a remote that has 100 buttons on it. So it's so nice if you can actually get a big button remote that has maybe 20 or less buttons on it, program the favorites and just a few other buttons, and they can watch TV again, which is really nice. Think of Alexa that you can program to change your thermostat, turn your lights on, turn a lamp on, set the alarm for the house. Any type of voice activated system is also. Also, any type of cameras that you can put in the home to monitor, especially if you are not there. There are cameras in my mom's home. So we can see and watch and hear everything that's going on, regardless if we're actually there or not. And that's really important. So you can put cameras in the home, as well as, of course, cameras outside of the home so that you can see what's going on. If mom calls and says, I heard something outside on the front porch, I don't know what to do, I don't know who to call, then you can always check the cameras and see. Some alarm systems have that too. You don't have to be a do-it-yourselfer. I'm just lucky I have a brother who is very good with technology because I, again, am challenged and special when it comes to that. Some of the other things, we talked about smart home sensors, whether it's the lights, the thermostat, speakers, doors. We talked a bit about the Ring doorbell. I think those are great and wonderful, especially if you're not home. You can see who's there. You can see who's at the door for your mom and dad if you're not home. And something that North Carolina specifically offers it's called the North Carolina Assistive Technology Program. This program is actually designed to help people navigate challenges to their independence through a variety of technological solutions that aim to increase their ability and improve their quality of life. I'm always about quality of life. It's just so important. There are multiple agencies throughout the state that provide this service. And the local number, you can, of course, Google North Carolina Assistive Technology Program, or I will just tell you, since, again, I apologize for my dog eating my slides, the number is 919-855-3500. And you can put a message in the chat if you'd like for me to tell you that again. But they do offer some special programs and services that maybe you wouldn't have to pay for as far as assistive technology in the home. So we talked a little bit about technology. Now we're going to talk about those community-based support services. Again, I'm going to talk about some local things, just mainly because we're dealing with Forsyth County, but then I'm also going to talk about some things on more of the national level. Maybe you're just on here and maybe you have a mom that lives in Forsyth County and then you have one that lives in Raleigh or somewhere else in another part of the state or another state as far as that goes. So some of this information is a broader knowledge than just local Forsyth County, because community-based services are so important because they're designed to allow our aging population to remain safely in their homes, delay or prevent institutionalization if we can possibly do that for that. A huge piece here locally, of course, is the Area Agency on Aging. Area Agency on Aging. It's a tongue twister. So this actually is designed by the state to help the needs and concerns of all older people at the regional and local levels. They offer guidance and support for both family and your aging loved ones. Another part of that is the National Council on Aging. Again, they deliver the resources, tools, best practices, and advocacy of our nation's needs to ensure that every person can age with health and financial security. They offer guidance for older adults, caregivers, professionals, and advocates. So the Area Agency on Aging, that is also local. So you can find that. Again, I have to refer to Google for that. And a huge one that I really have started recently to use for a lot of things is AARP. Have you ever just Googled something on AARP as a resource? They truly are a plethora of knowledge. And that is one of my favorite words is plethora. It says that they deal with any issues affecting those over the age of 50. So I guess I'm in that category now. So that's why I Google them for myself as well as my families and clients. But I love, they just have things that are easy to read. They have a lot of resources, whatever your question may be, just type it in the search bar. I think the AARP website is just so helpful for finding things sometimes. And it's very easy to understand. So some of the things is you may need help with a caregiver in the home or transportation, learning about health insurance or benefits. And there's actually a public service through the U.S. Administration on Aging called the Elder Care Locator Service. And that's what the type of things that they help with. Another huge resource is the National Institute on Aging. They do all sorts of biomedical, behavioral, and social research on aging processes to prevent disease and other problems of the aged. I was just really surprised. I really didn't know that much about the National Institute on Aging, but they do a lot of research and everything. So maybe if you have a specific question about Lewy body's dementia and what's going on with that research-wide, or how can you learn more about that, you can always look it up on that site. Something that I think is important is Meals on Wheels. If, again, you are not local, maybe you don't want to DoorDash, then you can always look for Meals on Wheels locally in your area to help with that. A great service that I found was My Health Finder. My Health Finder is actually a prevention and wellness resource. And this tool actually gives the users personalized recommendations for preventive services like screenings and vaccines. So it asks you a few basic questions and you type in your age, female, blah, blah, blah. And then it will say, okay, then you need to have a colonoscopy, you should have a mammogram and all these other things, and you should have these other vaccinations and whatnot. So it's kind of nice. It tells you things that you should have according to your age and other demographics. Something that's huge as far as local, the Department of Social Services where you live. Forsyth County Department of Social Services, as well as any county's Department of Social Service, they can provide case management services to community residents seeking placement. They do adult protective services, which Jennifer touched on, transportation, in-home aid services, Medicaid, and other services. But the big piece with that, with the Department of Social Services, and whether it's Medicaid or other resources in the community, is you have to qualify, and more than likely there's a waiting list. So don't ever wait. If you think you need assistance with something, don't say, oh, I'll call them next week. Make that high priority and call, because more than likely, unfortunately, there is a waiting list. But Forsyth County Department of Social Services, or whatever county you live in, the Department of Social Services, that is always the first go-to resource if I have issues or need something for someone, as well as to find the senior community group, which leads me into senior services in Forsyth County. So senior services, they really promote independent living of older adults living in Forsyth County. So they offer support programs, transportation, exercise programs. They loan out medical equipment, mobile meals, plus so many more things that I could spend all night talking about the different things. But to me, the Department of Social Services and Senior Resources are two of your best local resources for anything that your loved one may need. Another piece with Senior Services is they have a helpline. So again, I apologize for no slide, but I am going to tell you the helpline number is 336-724-2040. The helpline is basically a number that you can call anytime you have a question. You can call and say, I need to find a resource for blank. And when you call the helpline at 336-724-2040, they should be able to give you a resource for that. So I think that is huge. Just a few of the most common topics when families call in to the helpline. They are looking for transportation resources because mom or dad no longer drives. They need to get to the doctor. They need to get to the grocery store. We kind of take those things for granted when we still drive. They also are looking for some type of help in the home with personal care. Mom's not able to bathe by herself anymore. Mom's no longer able to shower by herself, get dressed, fix a meal, those types of things. And of course, meals and nutrition programs, those are huge. Not only do places offer mobile meals, but some of them actually have meal sites where you can go and have a meal once a day, during the week, or maybe however often you would like to go and have that meal. Other things people are typically looking for are housekeeping and sitter services. As we age, housekeeping is just not quite the priority that it used to be, if it ever was, I'll say. So people need help keeping their house clean. So sometimes we can find resources for that as well. Maybe the roof on your home, any type of home modification. There are actually grants out there and funds out there. If you need a new HVAC system and you qualify financially, you need to have a new roof put on your house. Again, there are qualifications for programs that can assist you with that. Contacting the helpline or the Department of Social Services is a great way to look for those avenues. Those programs are out there. You just have to dig a little bit to find them sometimes. Information on housing options, that's huge. Whether you need to move from one home to another, you may need a smaller home, a home closer to your daughter. They may be able to help with that. And of course, any type, if you were to need assistance with long-term care, placement in an assisted living, placement in a nursing home, then I can help you with that to get you started with that process. Another thing that I think has become huge, Jennifer touched a little bit on the loneliness and social isolation because of COVID. There are telephone reassurance programs, and I have used them before for people where they are community-based resources that where if you call them and ask, they will call your loved one and check on them, say once a week or once a month, whatever you like, whatever their program offers, just to say, hey, how are you doing today? I hope you have a good day. Is there anything you need? Is there anything I can help you with? So I really do like that. Senior services, they actually have a wellness program, and I will tell you the number to that. Again, my apologies, 336-725-0907. And then also the Shepherd Center in Kernersville, they also have a program. Their number is 336-996-6696. And if you guys would like for me to repeat those numbers for any of the services I'm talking about, please send a note through the chat box and I'll be happy to explain that to you. And Jennifer touched on this, and I'm going to touch on it again as well. I think one of the biggest and hugest resources that I can offer would be my services as well as Jennifer's services. Jennifer and I have been social workers for a long time. We've known each other for a long time. And I truly think, I know we are advocates for the elderly and their families, and we want to help you on this aging journey. It is uncharted waters for you. While Jennifer and I have both personally and professionally, we've sailed these seas multiple times, and we want to make that journey so much easier for you and your loved one. And the only thing that I regret about starting Elder and Wiser is the fact that I did not start it soon enough. I know it's a needed service. I love what I do, and I want to be able to help you guys and to ease this journey to make it so much easier for you and your family. Our goal is to advocate, to give you advice, provide you with information about the variety of options that are available in your area for elder care and services. So, please, Jennifer, did have the slide that, posted our name and our information. But if you ever have questions, Jennifer and I are here locally. We do serve the Triad area to guide you however we are able to do that, whatever you may need from us. So that is actually the end of my part of the presentation. So I will turn it back over to Bob, and we'll see if anyone has any questions for us.
Brenda, thank you very much. And Jennifer, both of you, delightful to have both of you here. Occasionally we'll get folks who email ACAP and they're asking questions like this. And it's like, ACAP is about giving access to speakers like this for great information, but we're not staff, we're volunteer, so we've got full-time jobs. And so we're not staffed to, answer the phone 24/7 and give these kind of answers. So I very much appreciate y'all elucidating who's out there to do that. I was smiling as you were talking about helpline at senior services. I've talked to the staff over there over the years, and they're kind of like, I like them. They're a little sassy, and they go, we're kind of like stump the experts now, right? We got a question about how do you remediate bed bugs, early before COVID, and it's like, really? Yeah. So they said they get all kinds of calls, and it's a challenge now to go, let's see if you can give us one that we hadn't heard before. So they are incredibly well versed, and it's a free service to Forsyth County citizens. So, and I love, highlighting all the different agencies, Shepherd Center, and all those that you did. On one piece on cameras, I know you talked about cameras in the home. We're hoping maybe at the end of the year, one of our presentations, if we can work it out, a guy who out of Greensboro that we all know. So hopefully we can get him to commit. But I helped him install, I won't tell his name yet and see if he commits, but I helped him install a system a few years ago in a lady's house in Greensboro. And, a lot of seniors a lot of people are like, you're not putting a camera in my house. So end of conversation. But we installed a motion sensing system throughout the house. And when it was done, we hit a button on his iPhone, and he said, now we're going to talk to the daughter in Amsterdam, and she's going to tell us where Bob is in the house. So I walked from the little breakfast room into the garage, and she said, he just opened the garage door. And the guy said, did he open or leave it open or closed? She said, it's still open. I mean, you couldn't see me. There was no cameras, but the motion sensors tracked, and they pair it with AI to say something. You can say, nobody knew that Bob's getting up at 2:30 in the morning every morning to go to the bathroom from his bedroom for 20 minutes. You, as the caregiving daughter, do you want to set a threshold that says, if he's longer than 20 minutes, what do you want to do? Well, let's do a two-way voice. Hey, Mr. Kane, are you okay? And I can say, had a rough night and shouldn't have eaten that seafood. Or I can say, I need some help. But you can set the parameters to say, if it's normal behavior, normal movement in the middle of the night, let's not bother him. But if it looks like out of the normal boundaries, then we'll intervene. So, yeah, I'm with you guys. The technology is just phenomenal. I'm going to check some of the questions. Great info. You ladies are a wealth, all capitals, of knowledge. And that's from Minda, who is a wealth of knowledge herself. So high praise indeed. And Dr. Althea Taylor-Jones, one of our national ACAP board members, says, I've served as a volunteer for the telephone reassurance program at Senior Services for 8 years. Great program. Absolutely. Thank you. I love that. So,
Bob, can I speak to cameras again real quick too? If your loved one is in long-term care, meaning an assisted living, a nursing home, or a family care home, you do have to notify people if they are being recorded. So if it's not the personal residence, and of course we don't want actual cameras in like dressing, bathing type areas. But if it's in long-term care, I will just say this, have a conversation, talk to the social worker, talk to your administrator, and keep those open, transparent conversations the best you can, and let people know there's recording going on, because you do cross into some gray areas if caregivers aren't aware.
Thank you, Jennifer. Yes, always dignity, respect. Thank you. And Brenda, I was loving when we had you on big screen, your banner jotted it, fearless advocate. I think that applies to both of y'all. So love that quality in both.
Yes.
Thank you, speakers. We very much appreciate you sharing your wisdom and knowledge. Thank you for our guests for coming on board with us. Each of the chapters, we get a kind of a large handful of guests on these videos, but Aaron Rice, who does a lot of our data analytics, is telling us quite happily that people are going back. And I mentioned earlier, as you signed in, go back on the website, share it with your friends, check acapcommunity.org, and this will be on there and on YouTube, on our YouTube channel, and search ACAP Community. And we're having 150 views, within the next 2-3 months. People are going back and looking at it later and reviewing and sharing. So I'm just love that we're getting this good information out. So thank you all for being a part of that. Next month, we'd love for you to join us again. Each of the ACAP chapters, if you've been doing this with us a little while, we've kind of shared, we rotated which chapter did the presentation. Now we're back in a format as we're trying to get back live, where each of the 5 chapters is doing their own online presentation. So you'll have lots of information over the next few months. Next month, this chapter, the ACAP Winston-Salem chapter, is going to be presenting residential options as we age. March 15th, we're always on the 3rd Tuesday night of each month, and at 5:30. And Jamie Jamie is with A Place for Mom, and he's on our leadership team, so he's going to be doing that talk. So we hope you can join us for that. Let's see. So I gave you the website. I think that's it. Let me check chats. Thank you. Yes. All right. Thank you all. Thank you so much. Have a beautiful evening. Bye-bye.